I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're going to be visiting the final resting place of a couple of Grand Ole Opry stars, the Queen of Disco and one of Briscoe's boys. So let's visit Harpeth Hills Memorial Gardens. I'm a few miles west of downtown Nashville at the Harpeth Hills Memorial Gardens. It's a large cemetery with all flat markers, so finding specific graves is almost impossible without the help of Find a Grave or the cemetery office. All of the graves that I'm looking for today have coordinates listed on Find a Grave. This is the main entrance of Harpeth Hills Memorial Gardens. And if you come straight in the main entrance and walk up this path, straight up here toward the statues, and look to your left, you will find the final resting place of Grand Ole Opry stars Charlie and Ira Louvin, the Louvin brothers. Ira Louvin was born in Alabama on April 21st, 1924. In the early 1940s, Ira, who played mandolin, joined Charlie and Bill Monroe's bluegrass band. And in 1955, Ira began performing with his brother Charlie. The brothers joined the Grand Ole Opry. The Louvin brothers soon became one of the Opry's most popular acts. However, in 1963, some differences surfaced, and the Louvin brothers went their separate ways, continuing to perform as solo acts. On June 20th, 1965, Ira and his wife, Ann, were killed in a car crash near Williamsburg, Missouri. On June 23rd, 1965, Ira and his wife became the first two burials here in Harpeth Hills Memorial Gardens. Resting next to Ira is his brother Charlie, who continued to perform on the road and on the Grand Ole Opry. Later in his career, Charlie began writing songs, including his biggest hit, See the Big Man Cry. In 2001, the Louvin brothers were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. In July 2010, Charlie was diagnosed with cancer and underwent surgery. He hoped to make a full recovery, but that didn't happen, and the disease claimed his life on January 26, 2011. Leaving the grave of the Louvin brothers, I made my way to the back of the cemetery where there are several private estates. Walking out this path here to the final resting place of Donna Summer. Don't let the name on the stone fool you. This is the private estate and final resting place of the lady known as the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer. There are a number of these secluded private estates located in the newer section of Harpeth Hills in the back of the cemetery. To find the grave coordinates for the Sedano estate were quite a bit off, so it took me a little while to locate the correct one. Donna Summer was born LaDonna Gaines on December 31st, 1948 in Boston, Massachusetts. She began performing in church at the age of 10, and in high school she was active in several musical productions. Early in her career, she traveled to Germany, where she lived for a number of years, performing in a number of productions in Munich. In the 1970s, Donna returned to the United States and achieved her greatest success during the disco era. In fact, she was so successful that she became known as the Queen of Disco. In 1980, she married singer-songwriter Bruce Sedano, hence the name Sedano on the headstone. During her career, she won several awards, including 5 Grammys and 6 American Music Awards. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2013. Donna Summer died on May 17, 2012 after a short battle with cancer. After a private funeral service was held in Nashville, she was laid to rest here in this private estate to Harpeth Hills Memorial Gardens. The next grave that I want to visit is really just across the road from Donna Summer and the other private estates. Just walk back down the path, walk toward the bench across the road that we see in the distance. And we walk into this section just a few rows in from the hedge and the trees. And we come to the final resting place of Doug Dillard. Douglas Flint Dillard was born in Missouri on March 6, 1937. Grew up on a family farm near Salem, Missouri. At the age of 5, he began learning the guitar, fiddle, and banjo. By the age of 15, he was so accomplished, he began playing with the family band. From 1956 through 1959, Doug and his brother Rodney formed a bluegrass band named the Ozark Mountain Boys. They became so popular that they were regulars on the Hickory Holler Show on KSMO radio. In 1960, Doug and Rodney began performing on their own, simply as the Dillards. It was as the Dillards that Doug and Rodney were cast along with Denver Powell and Maggie Peterson as the Darlings on the Andy Griffith TV show. While the Darlings only made 6 appearances on the Andy Griffith show, those 6 appearances, along with the ones with Ernest T. Bass, are some of the highest rated episodes on the show. Their appearance on the Andy Griffith show led to greater success, as the Dillards appeared on shows hosted by Judy Garland, Tennessee Ernie Ford, and Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs. Doug and Rodney also provided music for a number of movies and TV shows, including Bonnie and Clyde and The Glenn Campbell Show. In 1989, the Dillards' album Heartbreak Hotel was nominated for a Grammy for the Best Bluegrass Recording, and in 2009, Doug and Rodney Dillard were inducted into the Bluegrass Hall of Fame. Later in his career, Doug would often travel to Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is the home of Andy Griffith, where he would always receive a warm welcome during the town's annual Mayberry Days. Later in life, Doug suffered from a number of health issues, which forced him to stop touring. Doug Dillard passed away from respiratory problems on May 16, 2012. He was 75 years old. Well, this is where I'm going to end this video. If you remember the Louvin brothers or the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer, leave me a comment. And by all means, if you have a favorite episode of the Andy Griffith Show, especially one of the Darlings, I'd love to hear from you. If you found something in this video interesting, please give me a thumbs up. While you're at it, be sure to ring that bell and subscribe if you want to be notified when I post new videos. So until next time, remember, life's a journey. Be sure to take time and enjoy it. For now, I'll see you down the road. So long, everyone.